Hey everyone, you might know me as one half of the Late 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 show, but chances are you don't know me. And that's cool. It's fine, it's not really necessary, and I'm just here to talk about something that's really important to me. Now, most people that know me personally know that I play a lot of video games, and growing up as an only child, it was one of my main pastimes, and it still is. But there was a point between my childhood and now when I really started to doubt my love for gaming, and I genuinely started to think that this wasn't for me anymore. This idea was horribly misguided, but let me give some context before my thoughts get too disorganized. I've been playing video games for about as long as I can remember, and I was happy to pick up on anything I stumbled across when I was younger. In my childhood, I played mostly on console, but I had no aversion to PC gaming, even if the family computer could barely run a single game. With a Steam account that's almost 12 years old at the time of writing this, the seed of PC gaming was in the back of my head for a pretty significant amount of time. I eventually switched over to mostly PC gaming, and that's part of the problem. PC's selection of free games was just too enticing for the younger me. My friends and I fell down a terrible rabbit hole of, let's just say, questionable quality games. League of Legends. That's right. This was the beginning of my undoing, and I'm honestly ashamed to say that I checked this game out during the beta, and I introduced it to my friends. I played this game for 8 years straight, and it was huge to me and a couple of my friends. In fact, there's probably one or two people that remember when this channel had our League gameplay uploaded to it. We eventually picked up Dota 2, as it was a similar style of game, and it was also free. We went back and forth between these two games for a while, but it wasn't like one was any better than the other. Neither one was a good place to be. Both games frustrated us endlessly, and we always left our sessions more upset than when we started out. But we would always come back for more. The rare match when we seemed to be on top of the world and we would steamroll the enemy team, laughing at their angry chat messages, was enough to keep us going. We would be chasing this high throughout countless matches that were absolutely miserable. We only had 2 people in our party most of the time, so that left space for 3 random people to be roped into our misery every time we lost. Not like I can feel bad for the bastards. They were terrible players too most of the time, so they've got some responsibility for how terrible of an experience this was. Once we got burned out from League and Dota, we picked up another game. Counter-Strike Global Offensive. Again, not a good place to be if you just want to have fun. We had the exact same problem with this game. Lots of frustration, feeling like our losses were out of our control because of our teammates, and just being pissed off every time we logged off. But just like before, we kept coming back. The single good match in an ocean of bad ones was enough of a temptation to have us roll the dice again and again. Maybe this game will be fun. It's only half an hour of misery that we're stuck with if it's not. Maybe it was just that we wanted something to do with our friends, and we were willing to bear these awful experiences as long as we were doing stuff together. Or maybe these games are using some kind of predatory psychology to keep us coming back for the chance at a good game, like some kind of gambling addicts. Now, this didn't stop with CSGO. I continued to play this as I moved on to university, and there were a couple of more games that we picked up. Nothing notably different. Every game had a similar problem, and I think you get the idea by now. Overwatch, and Rainbow Six Siege if you're really curious. But none of these games were enjoyable to play. Sure, they might have given us the illusion of it in the moment, but I think how mad we were after playing every single day kind of speaks for itself. Now, there's a running theme here that connects all of these games. They're all competitive 5v5 team-based games, but these team games felt less like collective strategizing using the game's mechanics and more like trying to play rock, paper, scissors in some kind of Power Rangers mech, but each teammate controls one of the fingers. have fun trying to actually accomplish anything when your teammates have it out for you. And this was it. This was one of my lowest points, when I really thought my relationship with video games was going to be over. These games were pretty much all I played, and I always felt too busy to branch out and explore new games. I didn't want to invest time into other games, and I would have to stop if I wanted to play with my friends. And I didn't feel like I had the energy to talk them into experimenting with the same games I might want to check out. Through my own personal failings and my circumstances, I was trapped in an abusive relationship with competitive 5v5 games. This abusive relationship had ruined my view of video games as a medium, and I actually believed that this was all I was ever going to get. This threw me into a depression because now even one of my favorite hobbies didn't bring me any enjoyment. I had very little time to play games I wanted to check out, and during most of my free time, my friends would want to play. I didn't want to leave them hanging, and the only other times we would get to spend time together was in school. But I knew that if I played with my friends, it was only a matter of time before all of us would be pissed off and we'd go our separate ways to work on anything else. We were busy people, and a quick hit of a free or cheap 5v5 that everybody understood was just too convenient to pass up. But eventually I stopped playing all these games. I cut them all cold turkey, and I honestly don't remember when or where it happened. But I just didn't want to play any of them anymore, and regardless of what my friends were doing, I was committed to just do something else. They also slowly got out of their masochistic 5v5 game addictions, and it's been a long time. It all feels like a bad dream looking back on it, but God, I'm happy it's all over. Recently, I've had a lot of time to reflect and come to the realization that I love video games. I really do. And I hate that such a huge chunk of my life was spent questioning this. And so today I wanted to talk about some games. These won't really be reviews or anything too informative, but I want to gush about some games that are personally enjoyable to me in one way or another. I'm planning on making some more informative videos on some of these games in the future, but for now, let me tell you about some games that never fail to remind me why I love this medium. This is a cult classic RPG that seems like it's finally getting its long-deserved time in YouTube's spotlight. Plenty of people have recently made videos talking about this game, and honestly, I'm all for it. This is a game about the secret life of vampires. Seriously though, Vampire the Masquerade Bloodlines is a game where vampire society exists alongside the world that we know. The vampire government, known as the Camarilla, enforce a policy of secrecy known as the Masquerade, to convince humans that vampires do not exist. They fear that if humans knew of their existence, there would be an uprising and all of the vampires would be killed off. Now, the Camarilla is only one of many factions within vampire society that you'll come to find out about. There's the Anarchs, the Sabbat, an Equation, all feuding for political power in LA, and that's where you come in. You play as a recent non-con inductee to the clan of your choosing, and after being immediately arrested by the Camarilla and watching Donkey Kong murder your sire, you're let loose on the world. The prince has helped you, and now you have to help him. This kicks off the chain of events that becomes the game's main story, and I'll try not to spoil much more here. If this sounds interesting to you and you haven't played this yet, definitely pick this up and make sure you get it from GOG, as this version comes bundled with quality of life patches that will make your time much more enjoyable. Now, I mentioned earlier that you get to choose your clan. In this world, vampires come in different flavors. The official game comes with 7, but mods have been made to cover plenty more clans from the tabletop RPG that Bloodlines is based on. These clans all have their strengths and weaknesses, and they all add so much replayability to the game since your playthrough could be completely changed by using a different clan, before even factoring in the choices you have to make throughout the story. I've played through this game at least 5 times now, and my girlfriend has even more playthroughs completed, and even then, I'm sure we haven't seen everything this game has to offer. The attention to detail is insane, and the all-star voice cast carries this game's writing to the next level. People like Phil Lamar, D. Bradley Baker, and Gray DeLisle are some of the more recognizable names on the voice cast, but I think everyone did a spectacular job. Even the most insignificant background characters sound exactly like they should in my head. This game always hits the spot when I'm looking for an immersive Sim-style RPG, and I'm always happy to start a new playthrough, just to see what could go wrong this time.
Each minor problem like a grain of sand. Each night I inherit the desert.
Anyone who knows me knew this one was coming. Dark Souls is one of my favorite games ever. I really can't get enough of it. Neither Dark Souls 2 or 3 could ever really satisfy my needs like the first one. You don't need me to tell you this game is hard. But that's what this game's story is all about. Being abandoned by fate, but still overcoming insurmountable odds, clawing your way out of the pit that these obstacles have put you in, and mastering your skills until you're confident that you are stronger than anything the world could possibly throw at you. Hey, could you tell this game's director is a Berserk fan? I've got more playthroughs on this game than I can count, and I've taken to playing it during moments of downtime as a relaxing activity. The story can be extremely confusing, and luckily you get about as much as you want to take in since most of it comes from environmental storytelling anyways. And there's a ton of fan theories floating around. Now, I'm not saying that like it's a bad thing, I just think it's neat that lots of people can come together to interpret clues left behind by the developer in their own ways. And some of this game's mysteries have captivated players for years. Some fun combat, cool bosses, and an interesting story, plus the track record of being recognized as one of the hardest games ever made, really pushed me to see this one through to the end the first time I checked it out, but I've been hooked ever since. I'm such a sucker for games about the perseverance of the human spirit, and I'm also a sucker for games that explain their mechanics diegetically. Your character might be undead just like the others, but your willingness to respawn, to give this one more shot, is the one thing keeping you from going hollow and ending up just like the other undead around you who have given up. And that's so cool to me. It's such an uplifting message. It makes you feel like you could go out and punch all your problems in the face. I've played through this game so many times that it hits the spot when I'm looking for a game that I can just autopilot through when I'm relaxing, talking to my friends online. But with a few limitations on my character, it's more than capable of giving me just as much of a challenge as I'm asking for.
Let me guess. Fate of the undead, right? Well, you're not the first.
Speaking of challenging games, I feel as though I need to make a quick note for Hollow Knight. Hollow Knight is hard, but once the gameplay clicks, you feel like you could take on anything. This game looks beautiful, but it plays even better. I'll admit I didn't really get this game until I picked it up and played it for myself. I wasn't a huge Metroidvania fan, and Symphony of the Night usually scratched the itch when I was looking for something like that, but this one managed to get through to me. The story intrigued me just enough to keep me pushing through, but bosses are what really hooked me. I'm not really sure why, but I didn't expect this game's difficulty to get as high up as it did. And it seemed like every time I finished a monumental task and thought to myself, it's gotta be downhill from here, my friends would laugh and hint at some other boss that would be inevitably harder than the one I just beat. Again, this is not a bad thing, and I love games like this. I just wasn't expecting it from Hollow Knight. It was a very pleasant surprise. Hollow Knight showed me how much I can enjoy Metroidvanias, and I can't thank the people at Team Cherry enough. With only 3 guys working on this game and a price tag of only $15 as of writing this, Hollow Knight is certainly a labor of love through and through. and we are eagerly awaiting your sequel.
Papanada.
Alright. My friends knew this one was coming too. This game has to be in my personal top 3. Admittedly ugly graphics, tank controls for an over-the-shoulder beat-em-up, laughable voice acting, and completely ridiculous character designs. For newcomers, this game is just hard to love. But if you're willing to look past its rough exterior, you'll find the single best combat system I have ever seen in a game. Since the tank controls have movement and the camera on the left analog stick, this frees up the right stick. The right stick lets you dodge and dash in every direction, and you're gonna need it. There's no block, so you're just gonna have to learn to evade enemy attacks and how to punish them. And just when you think you've got stuff figured out, the game throws demons at you that don't follow the usual rules. They teleport around, they throw fireballs, they're just generally a nuisance all around. And once you think you've got them figured out, you might notice something. Are the same enemies getting harder? Yeah, this game has an adaptive difficulty setting shown by the meter in the bottom left. It goes up when you dodge an attack or hit an enemy, and it goes down when you get hit. It starts out at level 1 and goes up to level 4, which is accurately named level Die. This game also has some community challenge runs to self-impose if you want to make the game even harder, such as the KMS run, and no, that's not the Kill Myself run. This stands for the Kick Me sign, and it means completing the game with this sign on your back. The way you do that is by not using your roulette powers or your God Hand powers at all throughout the entire game. These are two of your most useful tools, as God Hand gives you invincibility, and the roulette wheel slows down time and also gives invincibility while the special moves are performed. They're both great get-out-of-jail-free tools, and without them, your execution is going to have to be top-notch to make it through to the end. The combo system is endlessly customizable, with a move list spanning over 100 moves long, and the ability to assign these moves to the input of your choice. You can just start freestyling your own combos. This game reminds me how much I love action games, even if it'll always feel like the one that got away. I've never found a game whose combat I enjoy as much as God Hand's, and you know what? I'm okay with that.
You're not Alexander.
And speaking of games with action, I'm giving this spot a double feature because I enjoy both games for the same reason. And New Blood sure knows how to pick them. Both Dusk and Ultrakill deliver on fast-paced, old-school FPS action, or boomer shooters if you prefer the technical term. Dusk lets you bunny hop like a speed demon, and Ultrakill lets you parry bullets. That's about all I needed to hear to be sold, but there's so much more than that. Both games have fantastic soundtracks, and Ultrakill's Devil May Cry influences are certainly something unique for the FPS genre. Dusk's Quake influences are something that I'm always happy to see more of when it's done right. And there's not much I can say to convey my feelings for this game because I just feel like showing it does a better job. There's so much going on and I love it. This is chaos, and I'm in the middle of it just fighting for my life. And that's what I'm here for. Now, Doom 2016 and Eternal might have reminded me how much I can enjoy a first-person shooter, but I can always come back to Dusk and Ultrakill to jump straight into a technically demanding shooter that'll let me show off.
Heretic.
Now let's mellow out a little bit. This game is probably going to be on the more controversial side of the ones I've listed on here. The Beginner's Guide was one of the most emotionally charged games I can ever remember playing. Have you ever cried at a video game? I have. and this was the game that did it. Now, I won't give any more context, and that's intentional. Tears can come from many emotions, and sometimes it doesn't even have to come from a particularly emotional moment in whatever media you're consuming. I'm being really vague and obtuse here on purpose, and all I'm going to say is I'm fading, and all I want to know is that I'm going to be okay. Alright, let me explain a little bit. This game is framed by Davey Wreden, the creator of the Stanley Parable, showing you several games made by a developer that he idolizes, named Coda. Davey explains what he thinks each game means as you go through it, and you get to watch Coda's style develop as time passes. But that's about as much as I can tell you before spoiling the game. The reason I said this might be controversial is because I can see some people finding this game pretentious and just labeling it as a walking simulator. And that's fine if it's not your kind of game, I totally understand, but if it sounds like something that you might be interested in, please give this one a shot. The Beginner's Guide reminded me how games could move me and make me feel anything other than anger. We're talking about Outer Wilds, and the fun in this game comes from solving the puzzles yourself, so I'm not going to show much gameplay, just me cooking marshmallows. Even some of the things I say might be spoilers. I can't recommend this game enough, even though at the time of writing this, I haven't even finished it. I checked this game out at a friend's recommendation, and now it's kinda a game that I play while he watches, and it's fun that way. This is a game about space exploration, and coming to terms with your place in the world. My friend half-jokingly refers to this game as an anthropology simulator, but he assures me that this is an accurate description, and so far, I agree with him. You learn about an alien civilization from a museum on your home planet, then you go off to other planets to try and learn more about them. You read their old writings, and slowly things that were of no significance to you suddenly have meaning. Details line up, and what seemed like nonsense before starts to paint a perfect picture. This game brought out a genuine curiosity in me, and all I was doing was exploring. I wasn't fighting enemies, I wasn't experimenting with crazy weapons, I wasn't using movement tech to go faster than the devs would have ever wanted me to. I was just some guy wandering around trying to learn more. And I was genuinely connected to my character because that was me in real life playing this game. I just wanted to know more, and that's what kept me playing. Nothing more than a hunger for knowledge, and that drive to know more sent me full speed straight into an existential crisis. Once the game starts to hit you with questions of how significant are you in the grand scheme of things? Not just in the context of this story, but also the world as a whole. It's moments like that that really stick with you outside of the game, and it wouldn't have felt as impactful to me if I wasn't in control of the whole process that led me to these moments. This game has been a humbling experience so far, not just because the puzzles make me feel like an idiot sometimes, but also because during a time in my life when I felt overwhelmed by everything, this helped put all of it a little bit more into perspective. I don't want to end this video on a calm note. That's no fun. And I know someone who can help.
Ain't nothing like a phone game.
Every game I listed so far was a single-player game. For the most part. And I don't want people to think I ended up never playing a multiplayer game again. I'm going to be referring to Lethal League and its sequel Lethal League Blaze interchangeably as just Lethal League, but I love them both. I prefer Blaze at this point. It just feels like it took the formula and improved on everything, added some new characters, but both games are really fun to play. The only way I can describe this game is fighting game Pong. You hit this ball back and forth as it speeds up, Each character has meter and different specials. Each round becomes an absolute disaster with more than 2 players. This is a great party game, but also a good game to learn and lab like a traditional fighter. This game brought my friend group back together, and we can all enjoy meeting up to smack the hell out of each other with this ball. I figured it would be fitting to end this video with the game that brought us all back and showed us we didn't really have any bad blood, and our falling out wasn't permanent, and we could enjoy some multiplayer games. Lethal League reminded me how much fun I could have with my friends before competitive 5v5s messed us up. Now I can't really say these were reviews because I barely explained the games beyond what they meant to me, and I can't really call them recommendations because I don't know what kind of games you like. These are just games that were important to me at a very turbulent point in my life. But I just wanted to get this out there. It was a huge turning point for me, and it's unbelievable to be on the other side of that horrible depression and actually enjoy video games again just by changing my perspective. I want to thank you from the bottom of my heart for listening to all of these ramblings, and if any of those old friends are listening to this, you know who you are. Thank you for finding the time to come back together with me and give video games another shot. It's all love.